Boom, we are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here wherever you may be. And of course, however you may be listening. Let's dive right into it today, guys. Iowa received a commitment from legacy recruit Mason Woods, the son of LeVar Woods, special teams coordinator LeVar Woods. And this is a nice get up for our commitment for a variety of reasons for the Iowa Hawkeyes. There definitely was some uncertainty, some of the speculation around this before this commitment happened, at least I would say going back 3-4 months ago, was centered around LeVar Woods not receiving a pay increase, that instead going to the linebackers coach, Seth Wallace. He got elevated tremendously. He's basically the co-defensive coordinator. And the thing is, guys, is that ultimately, when it comes to that, do I have my own personal preference of who in my head I would have as, my ranking of coaches on the Iowa Hawkeye coaching staff? Yes. But both of those coaches are dang good coaches. And they are both in, if I were to do a video today, and I don't want to delve into this too much because this is a separate video topic, but if I were to make a video today, which I have in the past, jotting down and discussing my front runners to replace Kirk Ferentz when that time comes, LeVar Woods and Seth Wallace would be at the top of the list. But at the end of the day, there's only so much money to go around. And, in a certain regard, them giving it to Seth Wallace did essentially give the picture or the perception that Seth Wallace is the most important assistant coach on the Iowa Hawkeye coaching staff, outside of course, the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator, Phil Parker. And even still, I would say, if you really got down to it, because Tim Lester is so new, you could make the case that Seth Wallace is, outside of Phil Parker, again, perception-wise with the Rays, the most important or valued assistant coach on the Iowa Hawkeye coaching staff. Now, one more thing that I want to say about this is I've said the last couple of years that I think that Iowa has one of the best coaching staffs in the Big Ten and one of the best coaching staffs that they've had under Kirk Ferentz in his tenure at Iowa. If you look at Kirk Ferentz's coaching staffs throughout his long and tenured career at Iowa, there's been times that have been better than others. Specifically with this current coaching staff, I think Iowa has really good recruiters that fit the mold of areas that they're trying to recruit. And I think if you look even before the most recent hires of Abdul Hodge and Liddell Betts, and you go back to Derek Foster and Tim Polasek, I think that those were two really good hires as well. The only one to me that has not paid dividends yet would be the most recent offensive line hire, which has been George Barnett. But even with that, if you look at the recruiting rankings, George Barnett has recruited fairly well. So the point is that Iowa, in my opinion, has a really good coaching staff. And I don't think that them giving a pay raise to Seth Wallace I don't think it says as much about their displeasure with LeVar Woods as much as it just simply says that they really, really like Seth Wallace. And obviously, this is a really good coaching staff. And obviously, LeVar Woods is one of the best assistant coaches in the entire country and definitely top 5 special teams coordinators across the country, if not the best. So with that being said, there was speculation whether I first heard this from 247 Sports. There was speculation that Mason Woods would be pausing his recruitment and not pausing it in the sense of not taking the step forward and committing to Iowa and showing his interest level being super, super high, as LeVar Woods reportedly listened to and interviewed for positions at the NFL level. Now, personally, I don't think that that's a big deal. I think that all coaches receive offers. Knowing what I know in my professional field and what I know about college sports and the NFL and just the sports industry in general, this is a business. And if you're a good coach, you are going to receive interest from other teams, whether it be at the collegiate level or the NFL level. So the fact that LeVar Woods took interviews, to me, isn't really that extraordinary because he is a dang good coach. But as far as Mason Woods' recruitment goes, there was speculation that LeVar Woods not receiving the pay raise and the next step, which was him interviewing for other jobs, impacted the recruitment of Mason Woods. Now, as I predicted, this has died down. LeVar Woods is back at Iowa. He has a sweet gig there. I really did not anticipate him leaving unless he had an extraordinarily better offer. You know, if you look at the nitty gritty of it, he gets to live in Iowa City. He gets to coach for his alma mater. His son is about to graduate from high school with the chance to play at the same school that he coaches at. It's a win-win all the way around. Now, bringing this focus back to Mason Woods, to me, this is a really, really nice get for the Iowa Hawkeyes. He does not have a specific position yet. He has played both sides of the football. I'm going to go ahead and pull up his recruiting profile here. He has played both sides of the football, and from what I have read, Iowa has primarily recruited him at the tight end position. Now, what's interesting about that is the fact that Iowa already has 2 commitments at the tight end position. One in 4-star tight end, one of the best tight end prospects in the entire country in Thomas Meyer, and the second being 3-star tight end out of Minnesota, more of a project projection type tight end, Eli Johnson, although he has some nice offers in his own right and a nice recruiting profile for his own right as well. So as far as the tight end position goes, if we look at Mason Woods, he's listed at it varies between 6'1" and 6'3". Let's just go ahead and cut it in the middle and say he's about 6'2". He checks in at about 190, 200 pounds. Personally, I think I would rather he comes in at wide receiver, as that has been the position that he plays in high school on the offense side of the ball, though he's played all over. To me, if he is going to play tight end, Iowa should do it right away. They should do it early on and immediately, because the tight end position at Iowa is a very, very intricate position. And a lot is asked of Iowa tight ends, especially when it comes to blocking packages and even receiving packages. So if Iowa has any inclination of him playing tight end, they need to do so right away. But it's just very interesting because Iowa took 2 tight ends in last year's class, and the cupboard is totally full. It's completely full. So for me, I would, considering the lack of depth that Iowa depending on who you ask, the lack of talent. Now, I wouldn't say that, but others would. I think that that's a huge misconception and misnomer that people label on Iowa to excuse the terrible play calling of Brian Ferentz and Iowa offensive production. But if it were me, based off of those things and his physique and skill set, I would bring him in as a wide receiver. You look at him, as I was saying, he's about 6'2". Let's cut it in the middle between 6'1" and 6'3" and give him 6'2". That's a pretty small tight end. That would even be a small tight end for mid-major levels. Now, has Iowa had tight ends that are in the 6'3", 6'4" range? Of course. Two names that come to mind would be Sam Laporta and George Kittle. So Iowa is completely willing to take tight ends that are maybe a little bit shorter, but have more receiving ability and have a tenacity that they display on the defensive side, which would lend itself to developing as a blocker. But along those lines as well, it is entirely possible that Mason Woods, by the time he's done graduating from high school, sprouts up another inch or two, and that would definitely help in Iowa's projection of him as tight end. And the other thing you guys got to keep in mind is he still has a full year of senior football or his senior season to play. So a lot can happen between now and then. At the end of the day, Iowa wants to bring in athletes. Do they try and have scholarship distributions and pinpoint what positions they're going to bring guys into their program as? Of course. But it's not a perfect science. And occasionally they will bring a guy in as an athlete, as a guy that they just can't pass up on, and he's too athletic, and they just got to get him on the roster, and they'll find the best position for him. So personally, like I said, I think that Iowa should bring him in as a wide receiver. There were other team programs that were seeing him as a linebacker or safety. Hell, honestly, given the fact that he plays wide receiver, he could even possibly play cornerback for Iowa. As Iowa does tend to like bigger, lengthier cornerbacks. Not always. Deshaun Lee is 5'10". Desmond King is 5. They will take shorter cornerbacks occasionally, but by and large, the general profile is a cornerback that's 6 foot to 6'3". So this guy has a ton of possibilities. It looks like regardless of where other teams projected him, I'm only letting you guys know that so that you guys know what type of player that Iowa is getting with him. Regardless, it looks like Iowa is bringing him in as on the offensive side of the football. Let's go ahead and read this article here from Blair Sanderson. I mean, he definitely has a good physique, guys. I mean, you can tell that he is the son of a former NFL football player. He obviously has been in the weight room. I'm sure he has a really good mindset. That is why I've told you guys. I mean, it's not rocket science. This is why Iowa likes to recruit legacy guys. They like guys that they know have a good family, they come from a good background, and they have a good head on their shoulders. Iowa City West wide receiver / tight end Mason Woods, the son of Hawkeye special teams coordinator LeVar Woods, announced his college decision today. The versatile 6'3". This lists him as 6'3", 215-pounder, staying home and playing for the Hawkeyes. A 3-star prospect, Woods earned scholarship offers from Iowa, Missouri. That was definitely a school he was considering. Kansas, Kansas State, Wyoming, Tulsa, Miami, Ohio, Ball State, and South Dakota during the recruiting process. And I'm sure he would have gotten more, but there was likely a lot of schools that stayed off of him because they knew that there was a 90% chance that he was going to land at Iowa. As a junior, he showcased his versatility on both sides of the ball for Iowa City West, finishing the season with 35 catches, 535 yards, and 3 tubs on offense, along with 17.5 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and 2 interceptions on defense. Overall, Woods is commitment number 8 for the Iowa Hawkeyes as he joins Thomas Meyer, Carson Cooney, Joey Van Wassinga, Jimmy Sullivan, Burt Goucher, Eli Johnson, Andrew McPherson. Also, Iowa has the high 3-star preferred walk-on, who is the son of Ryan Fitzgerald, the son of former Northwestern quarterback Tyler Fitzgerald. Pat Fitzgerald, sorry. So there you guys have it. I mean, this is good. Iowa lands him before their official visit weekend. He is squarely a mid 3-star prospect. I think it's hard for recruiting profiles to give him more than this because they don't know what position he is going to play. And sometimes that works against guys. Now, sometimes they're just so athletic to where it doesn't matter. But he's got a nice little recruiting ranking. This is definitely a good pickup for Iowa. It's always good to land in-state guys. Iowa has done so-so in the state of Iowa this year. A lot of it is going to depend on the commitment of Nick Brooks. If he decides to stay home and play at Iowa, Iowa will have finished pretty good in the state of Iowa. But if he doesn't, it's going to be uh, pretty much a so-so year, as a few other guys went elsewhere. Alex Manx committed to Iowa State. As you guys can see here, Nick Brooks, considered third best player in the state. Joey Van Vetsinga is a high 3-star interior offensive lineman. Jack Limbaugh, Iowa State. Xavion Robinson, Iowa State. Will Tompkins, Iowa State. Iowa did not offer him. Malachi Curvey, Kansas, and then Mason Woods, Iowa. So currently, Iowa has 3 of the top 10 commits in the state of Iowa. Lastly, guys, let's take a look at who Iowa has coming to campus. Like I said, as far as the official visit weekend coming up, this is really nice that Iowa got it out of the way. They have this kid committed. They do have a nice class thus far. They're not as far ahead as they have been in years past. Actually, you know what? I would say they are just about where they usually are. Because they have a later commitment date in the recruiting process. As I've told you guys many times, they have their official visit weekend late in June. As of today, Iowa does not have as many commitments as most schools, but that will remedy itself after Iowa's official visit weekend. So this time of year, it's usually normal for Iowa to have between 5 and 10 commitments before the official visit weekend. So I'm liking where Iowa stands with a lot of these guys. You guys can watch the official visit weekend primer that I did and check that out. Here's Ryan Fitzgerald. They can really come out of this in good shape if they do well. The big names to keep an eye on are going to be Nick Brooks, Terrence Smith, wide receiver Terrence Smith. The main competition is Minnesota. I think Lucas Algier is a big name too, considering he's a legacy recruit. Joshua Guerra would be a nice get at the defensive back position out of the state of Florida for Phil Parker. And of course, Christian Hudson would be a nice get out of the state of Florida. Brad Fitzgibbons is currently favored, according to 247 Sports, to land at Iowa. So, they'd be in really good shape. And then, of course, there's Yossi Epinesa. I told you guys that coming out of the official visit weekend, if Iowa were, a few weeks removed, if they had between 11 and 13 commits, they would be in good shape. And I still do think that that's the case. Between 11, 13, I think would be a good number with a chance to grow their class to 20 to 22 as the year goes on and progresses and the following football season begins. All right, guys, there you guys have it. The last thing that I'm going to say is, as I've told you guys many times before, how Iowa's class shapes up and how good or not good it is, and is usually based off of 2 things. Either one, they have 1 or 2 really headliner commits. And if they do solid in the others, what I call the others, the rounding out commits, they can finish in the top 30. If they don't do as well there, but they have the really nice, solid 1 or 2 recruits, they can finish top 35. Or if they don't have that, but they have, and they've had this in the past, they have a really, really strong group of high 3 stars, low 4-star guys across the board with an average class rating of like a 87, 88, they could finish top 35. To me, that is what the goal should be for Iowa, is to consistently finish in the top 35, top 40 in the team recruiting rankings. There's no reason, given the resources and the success that Iowa has seen on the field, that they should not finish top 35, at the very least, top 40. All right, guys, like, comment, share, subscribe. Last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy will on facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. Love you guys. See you guys next time. I'll have you guys covered following the official visit weekend. And facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. See you guys next time. Go Hawks.